Quickly, mate, if you don't mind me asking, I mean, I've got to ask you because you're a United fan, aren't you? A big United fan, as well known. I mean, 2 weeks ago, I was speaking to Noel Gallagher, and I got his sort of spiel on all the European Super League, and he didn't hold back, as you can imagine, with Noel Gallagher on Man City. But you obviously the other side of the fence when it comes to United. What's been the chit chat like over in America? About all this that's been going on.
Yeah, they don't know as much about it as Anglophiles or people from England and Britain, but the people who know football, the people who care about football, like, my trainer and a couple of my mates, were obviously keen to get the skinny from me.
Yeah.
I was, I got that piece of news that Sunday, and was speaking to my dad, who's a City fan, and my brother, who's a United fan, and we were, obviously very alarmed by it. And then very quickly it turned into a kind of call to action. And I think the power from the fans and from politicians and from the managers and from the athletes themselves was pretty damning. I think Florentino Perez is probably a little bit of a gangster. I mean, I think he is obviously self-serving, wants Real Madrid to survive, realize that they're in a huge amount of debt, approached Barcelona, who are also in a huge amount of debt, and said, look, why don't the two of us try something? Why don't we just try something here, and maybe we'll get a chance to save our clubs? I think at the expense of what would have been the Premier League, La Liga, the Bundesliga, the Champions League, the World Cup, the European Cup, the fact that Florentino Perez has this nerve and this cheek to say, look, we're trying to save football. No, you're fucking not. You're trying to save your team. You're trying to save Madrid. And maybe there's a way that, certain elements of the footballing world can come together to try and help out Madrid or try and help out Barcelona. But holding the entire sport to ransom was disgusting. And I do think, like Gary Neville has said, who I think has spoke incredibly eloquently about it, that we do need some government legislation to come in to say, if you want to do something, at the very least, it needs to go through some level of government, because as Gary Neville quite shrewdly said, the next time they won't ask. These are multi-billionaires that are very successful. They tried it, it didn't work. The next time they won't even ask. They'll just do it and say, sorry, our club, we'll do whatever we want. So I think they're scumbags. I support Manchester United. I don't support the owners. I love the team. I love Ollie. I have some personal friends there, but it's been desperately sad what happened. The only silver lining in it all is the group mentality of the football fans. I thought was incredibly positive, that Liverpool fans, Tottenham fans, Arsenal fans, City fans, United fans can all get together and agree on one thing. I think that's incredibly positive.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. I just wanted to get an opinion from someone over in America, because it's very rare I get to speak to a United fan who's far west. But I mean, obviously we could talk all night, but we've got to talk about the film. Well, nice one, Mark. I just want to get, I try to just, I love football, but like I say, it's another day anyway. So edge of the world then, man. What sort of ticked the boxes for you? Was it the location or was it the actual story? Because I know for you, it's like an Aladdin's cave going to Borneo or Sarawak because of obviously your interest or fascination with creepy crawlers and all the rest. I'll talk about that after. But what was it? Was it the location or was it the story? Did you know about the story beforehand?
I didn't know the story. I'd obviously seen The Man Who Would Be King, but I didn't realize that it was based on this James Brooke guy. It's kind of most projects for me start in the same way. I get a phone call from my agent saying this thing has come through. It's a go project. It's been greenlit. Let's have a look at it. So I read the script and I thought, well, there's enough for my character to do here to actually affect change and have an opinion and have a voice in it. In speaking to the producers. And they said, it's in Borneo. We're going to be here for 2 months. We'd like you to come out as soon as you can so that you can get used to stuff. And we want you to be sweaty. We want you to be struggling. We want you to be wet and, sleeping in the jungle and all this, all these kind of things. And that's obviously music to my ears. And I love the food over there. I love the people over there. I love the vibe over there. It's an amazing part of the world. Obviously, like you said, the animals. And I've got to a point in my career where when I read a script that has been offered to me, I just think, well, is there something that I can do here that I've not done before? Is this a character that I've not played? I've not really played a kind of old British military regalia, harking back to the Victorian Empire guy. What can I do with that? How can I make him human? Instead of being these archetypes of stiff upper lip and no one shows any emotion, I thought, well, how can I actually humanize this person and make him a real person, so that the trials and tribulations that he goes through is something that you care about. It was a great film to be involved in. I loved it.
Yeah, because you portray Crookshank was quite, like you say, you humanized him. It wasn't just some arsehole like stiff upper lip, like you say, it wasn't like, oh, Ardito and all that, but it was, you portrayed him quite well, I have to say. It really, really got into the characters. So
they're all humans, aren't they? At the end of the day, I mean, if you see a military guy who looks like he's tough or he's been in some scrapes, initially you have some ideas about him, but ultimately, that's someone's son or someone's daughter, and they have feelings and stuff. So my thing with Crookshank, once I got in there, was why did he go to Borneo? What is his reasoning behind it? What is his motivation? And he really just wants to keep Brooke alive. He knows that it's a very dangerous part of the world. He knows that his friend is probably beautifully naive about what's going to happen, and he wants to keep him alive. So he's between two worlds. He's representing the British Empire, the British military, the cup of tea at 11 o'clock, and things being done in the right way. He gets charmed by Borneo as well, not as much as Brooke, but you find himself kind of stuck. He wants to go back to England, but he wants his friend to come with him. If he leaves, what's going to happen? And he's in a tough situation, really.
Yeah, because I'm ex-military, so that's why I said about when you're portraying quite humanized, because I come across all sorts of officers, and and they can be a certain ilk, let's just say. Whereas you get some that aren't more human, who've been in proper battle, and I felt with Crookshank, you humanized him. It was more relatable from my experiences, and yeah, you did a grand job. I see you obviously you didn't keep the beard and everything. I mean, that was
no. It was a fucking nightmare. I mean, that it's down here, there's a cross here, down here, so cleanly shaven here. I mean, it worked okay on set, but when you're out and about having dinner at night or trying to meet a girl or going for a drink, you just look like a fool, So that was a challenge, but hey ho.
Yeah. So how was the shoot then? I mean, obviously for you, it was a piece of piss, but how was it for the other guys? Because, I mean, for you, it's like, a duck to water, easy peasy. But, how did the other guys cope? Was it some...
Everyone seemed all right. I mean, I kind of became the unofficial animal wrangler on set. So there was a couple of moments of like, oh, we can't shoot over there. There's a wasp nest, and we can't shoot there. We're standing in ants, or there's a big spider. And I would say, well, that spider looks big, but it looks scary, but it can't hurt you. And, I wouldn't worry too much about these ants. There's a lot of myths about these animals. Oh, this thing can kill you. Like, no, it can't kill you, and it doesn't want to kill you. So I became the kind of unofficial animal wrangler in a way. And at the weekend, I was off exploring, Buddhist temples and going into the jungle and stuff, which was really fun. The actors seemed fine. I think a lot of actors enjoy when the work has been done for you because of the environment that you're in. So I think, between Otto and Johnny, who I spent most of my time with, the fact that it was, 38 degrees, and the fact that you were sweating and there was crazy animals around and you're not supposed to touch certain things, that all just helps because, as British people out of their element, it was really fun. I had a great time on set. I mean, I was obviously really keen to make sure that however way the jungle was being photographed, it was left in the same way, which tended to be the case every time,
And I've got to ask you about your head. Did you keep the head after the shoot?
The head.
You got it?
It's downstairs. It's downstairs in my dining room. Right. So when the art department were done with it, I mean, we obviously only used it for a couple of days. I said to them, what are you going to do with this head? And they said, well, just put it in a cupboard. And I said, well, can I take it? It's my head. And they said, yeah, you can take it. So I took it on as hand luggage, which was great. when you're going through security and they say, what do you have in your bag? I would say, it's my head. And they go, what? And I go, yeah, it's my head. And I pull it out with bubble wrap. Oh, okay. So that was a lot of fun, and yeah, it just sits on my dining room table now.
I had visions of you maybe putting it in your bed one night and scaring the shit out of your missus.
It's all like burnt and craggy, you know, but maybe at some point. I want to try and put it on a spike and put it in my garden.
That'd be quite funny. That'd be quite
I think
funny.
the LA sun would melt it.
If you don't mind me asking, I mean, obviously, I know when you did the wild things before, and I know you were in Ecuador and you did the army ants, and I've been there and I've seen the army ants, and the show you did with that, the series you did. I mean, it's interesting, you know, fascinating place to go. But for you, to me, how did you sort of get into all your interest in all these sort of, I say the creepy crawlies, but I know it's a proper word to use for them.
I just love animals. I love any animal. Do you know what I mean? I love dogs and cats and horses and polar bears and gorillas as well. The thing with insects and invertebrates is they're right there, you know. So if you're interested in something, you can go outside into your garden and find ants and find spiders and woodlouse and beetles and stuff. So I think I always wanted an immediate fix to my addiction. If I'm into gorillas, which I am, it's much harder for me to get to the Congo or Rwanda. But with ants, they're right outside my doorstep. So I wanted that immediate gratification. I'm interested in life. I'm interested in how all animals solve the things that we're trying to solve in life: how to stay safe, how to stay warm, how to find a mate, how to find food. We're all trying to do the same thing, you know. So I've never been a fan of myths. I've always been a fan of breaking down myths. And spiders and sharks and snakes and, you know, tigers and lions all have a whole bunch of myths associated with them that just don't serve the animal. You know, it's just not helpful to be walking around with half truths about these animals. So I like education. My father's a teacher. Most of my uncles and aunties and cousins are teachers. And it just spoke to my level of curiosity. Yeah. The thing about biology and nature in general is you can never stop learning. There's always new stuff to learn. You're always a bit of a schoolboy because there's a mountain of knowledge that you still don't know. And I'm all about trying to build that knowledge kind of up as much as possible so I can help people and help myself on my journey.
You're not fearful of anything, you know, any sort of insects, animals, anything like that? I know it's a random question to do with that, I guess.
There's no animal that scares me to the point where I wouldn't work with it. I mean, I'm like rehabilitating a rattlesnake right now, which is dangerous and, you know, can hurt you. I took it out yesterday to make sure that it fed okay and make sure that it doesn't have any kind of injuries on it. And, you know, it's trying to bite me and trying to hurt me. I'm not scared in that moment. I'm obviously aware that I'm in a sense of peril, but the fear is not going to help me do the job that I need to do. So I try and stay as calm as possible so that the rattlesnake calms down as well. But in terms of my adventures on Wild Things and my adventures moving forward, I don't think you could suggest an animal and say, we're going to go and find that animal. Are you okay with it? And me say, oh, that's way too scary. I'm more scared of humans than any other animal, to be honest.
And I guess with lockdown, it's been a case of, you know, you've been at home or you've been allowed to, you know, devote a lot of your time to learning about the animals, insects and fauna and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky enough. I have a relatively nice garden that I've been working on all year. And then, you know, my house is full of scorpions and tarantulas and rip scorpions and centipedes and woodlouse and beetles and snakes and spiders and lizards and, you know, the list goes on, fish. So in those months where it was just me on my own doing my thing, you know, the company that you're keeping are those animals. And even though the connection is a little bit more vague than it might be with a dog or a cat, it's still a connection. I still have to come downstairs and make sure that those animals have food and water. It gives you a little bit of purpose to your day. So I owe them a lot for keeping my sanity throughout this last year, you know.
Yeah, no, thanks. I mean, I was going to ask you, you know, when you said earlier, you said about when you got the script to get offered scripts now and you feel you sort of like the story. How did that sort of fare early days when you were doing things like, I don't know, Flash Forward or Lost or even with Lord of the Rings, you know, that was guarded, wasn't it, the script? Were you sort of allowed to know where the story was going? Or, I mean, maybe the Lord of the Rings, you probably, you knew the books anyway. I mean, obviously you would have read them when you were a kid. But say with Flash Forward and with Lost, how did you approach something like them too? Because, you know, were you sort of given the script up front for both? Well, for Lost, I don't think you were knowing J.J. Abrams. It was a case of you turned up, you were told what to do, and then you were home, and next time you were told what to do or whatever, then you went home. And I don't know. I mean, I was an actor. How did you cope with all that? I mean, it fucking did my head in.
Yeah, on some projects it is like that. I was lucky on Lost and Flash Forward. I was one of the main characters, so you do get scripts. I don't read anything that does not affect my character. I'll read the script once, but then the scenes that don't affect my character, unless they're talking about my character or concerned about my character, I might read it. But if you've got two people on another part of the island having an experience that doesn't involve me, then it wouldn't involve Charlie, and Charlie doesn't need to fill up his headspace with that, So I think Star Wars was a different issue. I mean, I read a script of Star Wars on set at Pinewood that was definitely not the script that ended up turning into the movie. I think JJ had a red herring script that people read. It included my lines.
I heard that.
Yeah, and it included what I was supposed to do. But there were certain characters that didn't exist. There were certain moments that didn't get shot, You have to do that. It's a closely guarded secret. You're part of a circle of trust, and I'm happy that they trust me enough to have me be involved in the project anyway. So some of the secrets that they need to keep is totally fine. I mean, it's how the business works. I've been sitting on, Billy Boyd and I have been recording a podcast for the last 3 weeks. We just announced it today, but for the past 3 weeks, people have been saying, "So what have you been up to?" I say, "Oh, no, nothing really." It's all about timing and timing it correctly. So I'm used to it. And honestly, I think it's kind of fun. I love the fact that the Star Wars script was kept under wraps. I love the fact that there was no spoiler alerts on the final Lord of the Rings trilogy. I mean, obviously people assume that the ring's going to get destroyed, but they don't know how. And people ask me all the time, like with things like Lost, they say, well, what happened at the end? And I say, well, first of all, I didn't see it. Secondly, watch it. Like, do you really want me to ruin 6 years worth of a TV show in a sentence? Like, watch it. And I don't know. So, you're asking the wrong person.
So you never watched it then? Never watched any of it?
I watched the first kind of 2.5 seasons, and then it was on Wednesday nights at 8:00 in the United States. And we were invariably doing night shoots on a Wednesday night. So if you miss 3 or 4 episodes of Lost, you're screwed. You don't know where you're at.
It's not like today.
No, I missed half a season. I just thought, I'm not going to watch me on TV for like 15 episodes just to catch up. There's no point,
Yeah. I'll tell you what I did. I mean, I loved Flash Forward. I was bloody annoyed when it got cancelled. I mean, you saw at the end, I mean, obviously your character, where it was going, and it's more reminiscent of the actual book, but it got pulled, and it was like that. And I think another series called Jericho, they did 1.5 series. That was on Netflix, I saw. But that and Flash Forward, I just think they're the 2 series I wish somebody would go in and do them, because Flash Forward had so much. It's got legs, do you know what I mean? And I guess as you must have loved doing that show, because there was amount of money they pumped into it, but it just felt wrong that it didn't get, I don't know, maybe the wrong time. Maybe if it was now, it would have carried on.
I think if it was now, it probably would have carried on, because there's so many different outlets that would take it. I think they were struggling, unfortunately, with the hugeness of Lost. I think ABC were looking for the next big Lost, and there was a huge amount of pressure on Flash Forward. And I think when you are under that much pressure, you're always going to collapse under that pressure. I thought it was a great show, really well written, really well acted, exciting. My character in the second season was, he was going to go on the run from the CIA, and he was going to be like a genius Jason Bourne type character. So I was really excited about that. It ended up not happening, but it's another sobering lesson of realizing that this business you just can't predict. You can be involved in a great project that people like, that seems to resonate, and it just gets pulled. So if you're ever working as an actor, you should count your blessings, because most things just don't work out.
Yeah, I've heard that, and I get to see that, the amount of pilots that get commissioned, and we're talking 2 or 3%, aren't we? That get green lit.
Yeah.
So the podcast thing you're doing with Billy, can you mention that then? Obviously, you said you couldn't 3 weeks ago, but now obviously you can. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, it's called The Friendship Onion. It's Billy and I just sat around, talking rubbish, basically. And
like this.
Just like this.
Sorry.
And then every so often, dropping little bits of knowledge that people might not know about the filmmaking process, or our journey through it, or just life in general. I mean, Billy and I have spent an extraordinary amount of time with each other. We enjoy each other's company. We make each other laugh. And, Lord of the Rings is coming into its 20th year anniversary this year. So we thought, well, if we're ever going to launch a podcast where we re-explore what it meant to us 20 years ago to be making this huge movie, now is the time. So, it just got announced about half an hour ago. And I think the first episode comes out May 18th. So a couple of weeks from now.
Elijah and Sean involved in it, or can you not say? Or was that just a case of...
Elijah and Sean are not involved in it. Billy and I both produce it, but they're not involved in it. But we'll certainly have Elijah and Sean on the show at some point, and Orlando and Liv and Kate and Hugo and Pete Jackson at some point. Hopefully, whenever that happens, everyone's busy, everyone's running around. We want to establish that it's just Billy and I at first. But once the show has legs and we get going, we'll have anyone from the Lord of the Rings on it.
Yeah, so that's just podcast. It's not like a YouTube channel. It is just podcast. It's audio.
It's a YouTube channel as well,
okay,
called The Friendship Onion. So they'll film us every week making the show. And then obviously you can listen to it in the car as well.
And can I talk about Last Looks as well? Because obviously that's the film you did 2 films before lockdown, which obviously the one we spoke about, and obviously in Last Looks.
Wait, Last Looks? I don't even know.
Yeah, Last Looks. Unless the title's changed in America, we're just going Last Looks.
Maybe the title's changed. Who's in it?
Obviously, I was going to say you. No, Method Man's in it. Who else is in it? I'll tell you now. I should bloody know. Yeah, it's you, Method Man, Clancy Brown, Charlie Hunnam, Mel Gibson.
Okay. Sorry, it has changed its title. When I was making it, it was called Waldo.
Right.
Mel Gibson, Charlie Hunnam, right?
Yeah.
So I like Charlie a lot. He's someone who I've seen over the years at airports and at certain events or at dinner. He's a nice guy. We don't spend time with each other, but he's always been super sweet to me. I like him a lot. This project came in. It's like a 2-day shoot for me in Atlanta, playing a kind of outrageous character. All my scenes were with Charlie. I really, enjoy spending time with him. So I was like, cool, I'll go do it. But yeah, I think Last Looks is the story of a kind of detective, kind of his life spiraling out of control while he's trying to solve a case and he's being investigated at the same time. And I play this kind of nefarious attorney lawyer who gets on his nerves. So it's a little bit of a cough and a spit for me. But I enjoy those type of projects. And, to be able to work with Charlie and be in a film with Mel Gibson is pretty special.
What else have you got lined up then? I mean, I know obviously lockdown's been pretty shit for everybody. I mean, have you got anything sort of penciled in now going forward, or have you got...
Yeah, well, obviously the podcast is going to be a go project. And then I'm in development on a couple of nature shows, one of which we have like almost all the funding for, and we're just looking to cover a few more bases. Getting some funding out of England. I'm developing a few things with friends. This has been a year of development for me, really. Development is usually at least 18 months of you going backwards and forwards and banging your head against a brick wall. So we'll see. I would think in the next 3 or 4 months, as my business and the United States starts to wake up out of this fog, I'll probably sign on to a couple of things. But at this point, aside from the podcast, a lot of things are just kind of floating around in the air,
So when you say about the wildlife type thing, is that going to be similar to what you did before, or completely different sort of approach to that world? Or
I think Wild Things was my kind of audition into the nature world, and because of that, you have to get your hands a little dirty. I have to be holding on to these creatures. I have to be chasing them up trees. I have to be, falling over in caves and stuff like that. I think what we're doing now, certainly with this next one, is a little bit more blue chip, less of running and chasing and handling the animals, more of me like being in the same space as these animals, maybe a little bit more of a lean towards the science and a call to action as to what we can do. I'm a fan of nature shows that show us the beautiful world, but then also shows from there what you can do from the comfort of your home. These are the ways that you can actually do something positive to help these animals. So we're gonna make a couple of shows like that.
So it's more of environmentally awareness then, looking after everything, conservational. Yeah. All right, mate. Thank you for your time, man. I've probably run over now, so yes, 25 minutes. So
cool, man. Well, enjoy the game. It was nice chatting to you.
Okay, boss. You take care. Yeah.
Take it easy, mate.
Nice one, man. Thank you. Cheers.